Hello, today is April 24th, 2023, and we're going to be doing a two-parter today. The first part is this presentation here, and it's a show and tell from the site visit that I did. So we want to keep things short, but we're going to go through here. This first slide, on the 4th of the month, I had to be out in the Youngstown area for work anyhow, and I figured since I was so close to this, I might as well head down, take a look, see, introduce myself, see if I can make any connections in town, and just get my eyes on what's actually going on. So here, this is the town of East Palestine. The picture in the center, the EPA actually took over a building, and it is their kind of their PR outreach headquarters. So I walked into the building, introduced myself, and very quickly people came out and said, well, this is mainly for residents. But if you want to correspond with us, they gave me the information for the Region 5 Public Information Officer, whose name is Michelle Latham. And her email address is r5_POI@epa.gov. So she's the person that is coordinating the communication back and forth. I can tell you that I was impressed to see this. I think that they are trying to do the best that they can, but knowing that this is fraught with all kinds of problems, the delay associated with when the event happens, when you mobilize folks out there, when you collect samples. Collecting, it takes time to establish a sampling, quality assurance project plan. You're just not going to start collecting samples, although, that can happen, but you have to do it in the context of some logic, and all of that takes time. And, not letting folks off the hook, but, I think their hearts are in the right place. At least that's what it appears to me. But we'll let the data shake out. I think some of their messaging is off, using words like safe and I'm looking off to the side because there was a bunch of handouts that I was able to get, where they are talking about things, and the EPA approves the community action plan and stuff like that. They're just trying to over communicate. There's good and bad associated with that. The good is that they are sharing information. The bad is that a lot of the important stuff gets lost in the weeds of just general information that isn't important, right? There's data, but then there's usable data. And it's important to separate the two. And that's going to be what the second part is about. There was a report that was released that the EPA has some initial data on dioxin results in the soils. And, it's not great, but it's not terrible. And we're going to dig into that. But let's stick to the topic here. The picture on the left is what I was greeted with immediately out in front of the EPA welcome building. And it was, I didn't get the name of on the gentleman's shirt, but looks like some college station where they're doing essentially the same thing that I'm doing here. Citizen journalists covering this story. I thought it was interesting and captured it, and this is great. We need more of this. We need 1,000 me's. We need 1,000 of those people in that picture, because the large journalists aren't asking the questions that need to be asked. Oh, you did some sampling and you have some data. Oh, there's some dioxins. Which dioxins? Are they 2,3,7,8 substituted isomers? Like what? Those are the types of questions that are coming forth from people that are a little bit closer to it, or that might know what's going on. On the right-hand side is a picture of the location. I was actually surprised. I was able to drive right up to what in this case was ground zero. I did shoot a video that there's really no reason to post it, but the big takeaway from it was I'm driving through, and right after I crossed the tracks of where these big above ground storage tanks are, these big blue above ground storage tanks that are in this picture here, you can see them. Um, and, just guessing, they're probably 50,000 barrel above ground storage tanks. It's a significant amount of water, and they're in secondary containment that is sheet pilings with HDPE around it, very similar to what we would use in oil and gas. But just on the other side of that, there was a school bus dropping kids off from school. Um, I realized that for what it was at the time, it was just disconcerting that life is going on as normal. Kids riding around on bicycles. I live along these tracks, albeit 60 miles east. Um, you get to where you're going in this part of the world by walking, riding a dirt bike, riding a bicycle along these tracks. That's just how it is in the Rust Belt of Appalachia. Your life exists. Many of these towns are railroad towns, coal towns or first, and railroad towns second. But it's just literally 100 yards from this site is kids being exposed to this and living their lives. So what you see on this telephone pole is why I captured the picture. You see a Suma canister, that's the upside down aluminum shiny thing. And then there is a regulation device on there. To me, that device, the little blue box, looks like what I would use in industrial hygiene sampling. But your Suma canister, this looks to be a 5-liter Suma canister. They're verified clean, and then they're evacuated. So there's a vacuum on them, and you regulate through the blue box either a short-term exposure limit, so 5 liters of air through a very short amount of time, or through like an 8-hour time-weighted average TWA. Something that those are the two main ones that folks use, because the data can be comparable to NIOSH and CDC limits. So this, as of the 4th, they're still collecting air samples, and what will happen here is once that's full, they'll take it back to the laboratory. They'll hook it up to a GC mass spec. Usually that's what they're doing, like TO15, and they're analyzing for organic compounds by gas chromatography with a mass spec detector. And then the yellow device with a bag over it, I think that's the RAE Systems auto multi-parameter real-time device that has been serviced through Pittsburgh-based Field Environmental. So I saw some of their vehicles on site. That's actually who I reached out to in the original videos to help me figure out what types of instruments were being used on location. They're a good crew. I use them myself. They're really a force multiplier. So the next page. The image on the right, you see a series of big white trailers up on the hillside opposite of ground zero. And these essentially are all, you can just, I don't know if you can make out, but it says mobile command center. So these are command and control mobile laboratories, places where, the biggest pain in the ass with this stuff is labeling jars and packing coolers and putting ice in the coolers and taping stuff up and taking it off to the laboratory. And, a lot of this stuff has to be done in short hold times. So it's physically being couriered from this location to a handful of laboratories that are in a driving distance from this location. Thank goodness, well, maybe not thank goodness. A lot of these events happen in the middle of nowhere. So on the good side, there's less exposure. But the bad side is it's hell getting these samples to a laboratory. I know when I was involved with the Kingston fly ash disaster, we worked with the infrastructure that was associated with the Department of Energy facilities down there. In the World Trade Center collapse, obviously there was all kind of response going on to that, but it was also the largest environmental release in the United States at the time. So, a lot of these same things happened there, and that's why I can weigh in on this is because I've worked on both of those events and know what to expect and how this plays out. And it's a years long process. I'm sorry for that stark reality, but that's what it's going to take. And then the other picture here is a closer up image of the ASTs. Um, that's a 100-barrel bobtail water truck that you can see there. I don't know if they're transporting from one location to the other, or sometimes that's fresh water that they're using to wash off you washing the debris off of tires and things like that, because you don't want to track contaminated area from the control area all around town. So they try to keep the dust down through watering, wetting it. And um, you can see this is the sheet piling wall. I would guess that this is 8 foot tall. And how secondary containment works is you need to be able to the volume of your secondary containment needs to be such that it's 110% of your single largest vessel. And if these are 50,000, 50K ASTs, if they're connected together, then we look at that as one vessel. So that would be 100,000 barrel containment. And that containment would, if this vessel were to rupture, that secondary containment would have to hold all of that water. So this AST is placed on location with a polyliner in it, and then all of that is within a HDPE lined containment with still sheet piling walls. And then this is a diesel pump. It looked to be like a 6x6 or a 4x6, just used to move water around. I assume that they have sumps from everywhere around here, storm water, all, pump and treat, whatever is going on. All of that is transferred into here. I did see what looked to be a 12-inch diameter lay flat hose, something that we use also in oil and gas. And you can move a shitload of water through a 12-inch lay flat. That's akin to what you use on frac, and they're using 80 barrel a minute rate. So you can move a ton of water from here. These are questions that I have is, where is this water going? I would think that it would all have to be either treated and discharged. So we would be able to track that to an MPDS discharge permit, or injected in a class 1 disposal well. I'm guessing Buckeye Brine is probably who's getting a lot of this. But that's information still to run to ground. But this is, there's a lot that you can get from images, and this is what I'm seeing, trained eye, and I just wanted to share with everybody. And then this is the segue that will close out this video and bring us to the next one. I follow a bunch of people. I mean, I posting this stuff onto YouTube mainly because I love YouTube. I don't watch TV. I watch YouTube. I just enjoy it. And one of the channels that I've watched for a while is one called S2 Underground. It's basically a bunch of retired guys from the military, and they just have their own intelligence, and they give periodic briefings. And regrettably, one of the things that they do is post about these types of incidents that are happening in the country on an all too frequent basis, right? You have we now, public maybe hopefully is now aware that there's on average 3 derailments a day in the United States. So much of this stuff isn't paid attention to, and maybe it's paid attention to now, but unless you live in East Palestine, and quite frankly, from what I saw from most of the people in East Palestine, they're just living their lives. People aren't paying attention to this stuff, to our detriment, right? We should be holding these people accountable, and by these people, I mean the companies, our state, local, federal representatives. I see how this stuff happens. We're chasing quarterly profits. The companies involved are chasing quarterly profits. So they're deferring maintenance or repairs, upgrades that result in these types of accidents. Don't attribute to, what's the saying? Don't attribute to malice what can be explained by stupidity. In this case, it's just being a penny pincher. And the deferred maintenance in this case through Norfolk Southern is going to cost them dearly. but even then, that the allocation of those funds, even if it goes back to the people impacted, it's, it's just, it's better for these things not to happen. So getting back to this, S2 Underground, they go over these types of events at a very macro level. And this one caught my eye. So, one of the other things that have happened recently was this dairy farm explosion in Texas that killed like some astronomical number of cows. That is going to make one of these. We have these all around. 2 years ago, it was Antifa. They were tracking, Antifa events in the cities. Now this is one of the things they tracked, and man, did this catch my eye. Contrast that with all of this stuff. Are my animals safe? Oh yes, we follow the science and everything is safe. Well, the CDC confirms that 7 of their investigators have fallen ill following the investigation of the hazmat incident. These are people that are going door to door, taking samples. They're there during their shift, and they're probably staying in the hotels there, but their level of exposure is a fraction of that of the actual people that live there. And still 7 of these, I don't know what the total N is of the population of investigators, but 7, that sounds like a lot to me. So was it 50% of all the investigators that were there for that were doing these activities? And what is it that they fell ill from? But I just wanted to share this, that not all is good. We're trying to get the data out, but people are being affected from this. So that concludes this video. I'll start another one where we transition from the show and tell from my site visit to the news article talking about the dioxins. Thank you.